We're joined by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. I want to play this bite, Secretary Pompeo. We saw the UN speech yesterday from President Biden, and then we saw the reaction by President Putin. Let's take a listen. I mean, it's dubbed over into English, but this is President Putin, bite 4.
And those who try to blackmail us with nuclear weapons should know that the prevailing winds can also blow in their direction. If the territorial integrity of our country is threatened, we will without doubt use all available means to protect Russia and our people. This is not a bluff.
So there you go, Secretary Pompeo. I don't know who's making nuclear threats against Russia. I haven't seen anyone do that, but that is the message he's taking to his own people. And it is certainly a pretty scary message to the world when it's a Vladimir Putin that people aren't sure if he's off his rocker or not.
Well, Jordan, it is a serious message, one that needs to be thoughtfully responded to. Your point is well taken. Much as he said he was threatened by NATO, much as he now asserts that someone's challenging him to use nuclear weapons against the Russian people, nobody said that. NATO didn't threaten Russia. This is an aggressive act by him. Well, there's no reason to walk away from that central understanding. But you have to take seriously what he said. I think he has every intention of convincing us that he's going to use these nuclear weapons. And our response shouldn't be what President Biden did yesterday. The place and the way one deters bad guys is not by giving speeches at the UN when you have demonstrably failed to follow through on so many of the commitments that you've already made. And so this is the time for quiet, serious deeds, not words, but deeds. Actions that Vladimir Putin can see are serious, not just American actions, but European actions that demonstrate that the cost to him will exceed the cost that he can impose anyplace else. And, giving a speech or making a statement is not going to get it done. This requires a private conversation with clear actions that I know can be taken. I can't talk about all of them, but we can make very clear that we're prepared to respond in a way if he upended the world by using tactical nuclear weapons.
It's interesting, Mike, that you say this because I had the privilege years, this is back in the 2014, 15, and 16, to study during the summers at the University of Oxford and got Benjamin Disraeli's papers and went through them and put together. We ended up writing a series of books involving a lot of these issues. But the interesting thing about when I was at Oxford was Disraeli said, diplomacy can be war, but it has to mean that you've got power behind it. And it right now is we make these statements at the United Nations, and I've been at that podium, and it dealt with an issue of the boycott, divest, and sanction moment, and at the General Assembly in the hall. It's an impressive thing, but you've got to have power behind this. And right now it seems like we barely can get through the speech, let alone put action in place.
You've got it exactly right. There's no chance that our friends in Europe or our adversaries in Russia are taking on board what the administration is saying because it so often is out there being corrected, modified, pulled back, walked back. You use the language. And even more importantly than that, right, this was a president who was part of the administration that said if the Syrians used chemical weapons, we'd respond. They didn't. This administration that said we're not going to let any American be left behind in Afghanistan, we did. So our words have not proven to be of value for our friends or our adversaries. So this is time for deeds. This is time for action. There are a handful that could be taken that would very clearly put Vladimir Putin on notice of the risk to him, and we ought to be doing that. I hope that I'm not seeing it, but I hope that we are in ways that can't be seen.
Secretary Pompeo, are we close to some kind of nuclear conflict? I mean, if you or is it just bluster? It's very tough to predict him right now. He's called up. For the first time since World War II, Russia's called up their reservists, 300,000. He tried to play that down as, well, it's not everybody and it's just a limited number. But then he's talking about, a nuclear threat against Russia, and he's become a very unpredictable actor. He went from being kind of a predictable actor to an unpredictable actor. Could we be close to some kind of use of nuclear? And they may be tactical, maybe something different than what we think of it with World War II. But some use of nuclear weapons?
Yeah, no, we should not assume that this is bluster. We shouldn't even assume he is irrational. I think it is fair to assume that he is prepared to do this and is contemplating it and thinking through his risk analysis in doing so. Your point is very well taken. It's different than World War II, but make no mistake about it, going past the threshold of conventional weapons, It's a big deal for the United States, and we should be treating it as such. Last thing I'll say is, there are multiple tools that are of staggering impact that Putin can use. He made the statement yesterday about his nuclear program, his tactical nuclear weapons. But don't forget, if he pulls the string on energy this winter, the loss of life in Europe, the loss of jobs and wealth and power in the West, and the United States included, is very serious. If you can't heat homes in Germany in the wintertime, if the French countryside is littered with people who no longer have access to electricity because Vladimir Putin shut down energy transfers, this is a serious, real, credible threat as well. And each of those needs a response that is not about statements, not about words, but about actions and deeds that manifest a seriousness from America.
Mike, obviously, you've been in the room with Vladimir Putin. I mean, so you know the person, the way in which he governs, the way in which he leads. You said something very important. We cannot take these statements as mere puffery or bluffing. We are in a very dangerous place right now. I feel like where we were during the Carter years, but maybe worse because the lethality is so much more significant now. And like you said, the energy dependence is so significant. But he doesn't have to, like you said, he doesn't have to deploy a nuclear weapon to bring Europe to its knees. Let's be clear. I mean, I think that what you said there is for real. And people need to understand that the energy dependence on Russia for Europe is staggering and could cause, as you said, untold casualties if he plays that.
No, it's very real, and it won't stay in Europe. If European manufacturing shuts down, America jobs by the thousands will vanish because supply chains slow all around the world. And to your first point, it is never with Vladimir Putin, who I spent a little bit of time with, it is never safe to assume that he's bluffing. He is more capable than that, and in spite of the fact his military has underperformed, the fact that he's prepared to call up 300,000, don't diminish that. That is a big number. He's going to his own people saying, we are in this, we are staying in this. We should take very seriously the things he said, and we should respond to them in a way that is appropriate, coercive, and clear.
Secretary Pompeo, I wanted your reaction to the end of President Biden's speech. It's a little bizarre. Let me play it for everybody. Bite 33.
We can do this. We have to do it for ourselves and for our future, for humankind. Thank you for your tolerance, for listening to me. I appreciate it very much. God bless you all.
We're supposed to be the leader of the free world. A lot of countries look to us to be the leader of the free world. Thank you for your tolerance, for listening to me. Secretary Pompeo, I mean, he's the President of the United States.
Boy, Jordan, the first time I heard that, it rang in my ears as well. This is the United Nations. We underwrite the biggest chunk of this. These are a group of nations that are relying on America to be strong and powerful, not seeking forgiveness and tolerance. It just immediately harkened back to President Obama's apology tour from 2010, right?
Exactly.
A fundamental misconception of who America is, our goodness, our decency, our exceptionalism here in America. Rather than apologizing and seeking forgiveness and tolerance, we should be commanding the world to behave in a way that is consistent with our value set instead of going to a place where you have Iran and Venezuela on the Human Rights Commission and asking for their tolerance.
I'll tell you, folks, elections have consequences. I slept a lot better at night when Mike Pompeo was the Secretary of State. Let me just put it that way. And I am, somebody that works on the global stage. I mean, I'm one of the few lawyers in America that has appeared before the International Criminal Court in The Hague. I mean, we've done these cases. I'm telling you, folks, you got to protect American values because the rest of the world doesn't have them. That's just fact. Secretary Pompeo, as always, thanks for being with us, our senior counsel for Global Affairs.